Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Void Dwarf Studios for our 40k episode, and this time, much to the request of Jameson Veneton, who loved the Chimera video, thank you very much Jameson, wanted to see some more tanks. And as I like to produce more videos, absolutely, let's see some more tanks. And we're going to look at the biggest, baddest variants that the Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum to everyone who's new out there, field on the battlefield. The Bane Blade, a quite frankly monstrous vehicle of a super heavy tank. It is the largest and by far the oldest of all the tanks used in the Imperium. These typically serve as command tanks for entire regiments, spearheading armoured assaults, and on rare occasions when really dangerous threats turn up, small squads will be formed into companies which will be tasked to take down heavy threats. We are talking Titan level threats here. The kind of big stuff that really can't be coped with anything smaller. The Bane Blade is an ancient standard template construct, the blueprints for it dating back to the Dark Age of technology. At one point in time it is believed that entire divisions of Bane Blades served the Emperor in the Great Crusade. However, by the time of the 41st millennium, it's one hell of a lucky regiment that can feature even one Bane Blade, let alone two, as the SDC data necessary to create new ones tends to be a closely guarded secret of the Mechanicum, and depending on the Forge world that you're getting your Bane Blade from, it's going to have some differing design specs, shall we say. Some improved, some degraded, but unfortunately, as the Mechanicum basically have the monopoly on technology in the Imperium, well, if you're lucky enough to be near the Forge worlds of Mars, Lucius, or Esteban 7, then you might be able to get a Bane Blade with all the shiny specs up to date. If not, then your Bane Blade may have some design flaws, let's just say. In terms of its design, the Bane Blade is wrapped in layers upon layers of ceramite and plasteel, making it one of the strongest, most well-protected tanks that you can find. This thing can happily survive las cannons, and really it's only other super heavy vehicles or titans that this thing has to worry about. And once you get inside your vehicle, the dizzying array of various ancient technologies would be quite overwhelming for the average Imperial Guard tank driver. Besides the basics, searchlights and Auspex gear, as well as seismic sensors to work out where things are underground, it has a multitude of auger sensors attached to the tank's hull, targeting arrays, 2 periscopes for the tank commander, allowing you to have nice clear views of the battlefield, so long obviously as there isn't too much smog or cover in the way, and in the addition of gunner's scopes, designed for the various tank gunners on the side sponsons to find their enemy, short and long range Vox equipment making it easier to communicate with one another. These Voxes are sophisticated enough to even connect to ships in orbit, and even feature a handy thing called a special pulse laser comm system, which means these tanks can actually share data between one another to allow the logic engine network. Think of it a bit like the internet, except very small and localized. It allows the vehicles to actually communicate one another, one super heavy to another, much more quickly, effectively, and in a more secure way. With all this fantastic array of information flooding into the tank, it's really no wonder that this is the prime tank for any Imperial Guard commander who wants to be nice and safe whilst close enough to the action to know what the heck is going on, and also be in something powerful enough to make the difference where it counts. Its massive multi-fuel power plant means that this thing can kick out an absurd amount of energy, and typically speaking will keep up quite happily with the average Lehman Russell Chimera. And, well, because it's Imperium tech, it also runs on all kinds of fuels. If you're really strapped and you really have no other choice, alcohol will do, but the Mechanicum are going to give you a very stern talking to after the campaign, and probably beg the forgiveness of the machine spirit inside the Bane Blade. However, this power plant isn't, it's a very technical piece of equipment, and it will require a full maintenance every 6 months, in which the tank will have to be completely shut down and allowed to be essentially stripped and all damaged or worn components replaced. If you leave it a lot longer than this, the bugs are going to start popping up, and the Bane Blade's going to get more and more complicated to actually steer. But whilst this is all very interesting and amusing stuff, let's get on to the guns, shall we? A Bane Blade sports the lovingly known Bane Blade Cannon, a massive 10-foot long battle cannon capable of rocketing shells powerful enough to turn, well, again, pretty much anything except Titans into all kinds of, well, small pieces of tank. Such as the power of this cannon, the recoil's enough to actually make the tank move backwards. And any attempt of subtlety with this thing is, well, virtually impossible. It's a very loud and noisy vehicle. However, with the tank's cleverly designed double sleeve construction, it allows the gases created from the explosive shells to be vented away and not damage the tank or the crew. In addition to these, it has a coaxial autocannon that provides additional firepower, which is fantastic for lighter vehicles, complementing the main gun. These are both operated by the first gunner, stationed in the gunnery deck inside the tank, snugly under tons of ceramite and plasteel, and additional gunners operate the following weapons. You will have, as a secondary weapon, the Demolisher Cannon. This thing is the main armament for, well, the Demolisher tanks. You may remember those from the Space Marine video on tanks I did, and Demolisher cannons are siege cannons. These things are ferociously dangerous and more than capable of killing tanks in a single shot and decimating entire infantry platoons into all kinds of red, gooey mist. This is operated by the secondary gunner, who will be very busy operating the machinery that loads and fires the massive Demolisher Cannon shells. But we aren't even halfway through the various weapons you can have on top of this thing. These include a turret-mounted twin-linked heavy bolter for any stragglers or any troops want to try and get too close. And just in case this didn't feel like quite enough, you have two side sponsons, each one with a twin-linked heavy bolter for, really mowing down anyone stupid enough to stand in front of this thing, and a las cannon. Because when you have a Bane Blade cannon, a Demolisher cannon, and an autocannon, having a las cannon fire at that exact same target as well just thoroughly brings the point home of how much this Bane Blade really wants you dead. Now, as awesome as having these extra sponsons are, the turrets do have an issue. The heavy bolters have a limited angle of 90 degrees, firing directly ahead and to one side. However, the las cannons on top of the heavy bolters have a lovely field of view. This thing can fire backwards, up, down, side, you name it, it will probably be able to hit you. And the third gunner and fourth gunner are the ones who operate these weapons. And just in case this wasn't quite enough, you can in fact add a very cute Pinatal heavy stubber or a storm bolter in addition to hunter-killer missiles. With a top speed of up to 25 km an hour whilst on a relatively hard surface, this thing is, well, it's not the fastest tank in the world, but it's going to at least keep pace with some of your slightly heavy vehicles. Lehman Russ tanks come to mind, as often they tend to be used as shielding units for the larger Bane Blades, if, well, you have the resources to hand. There is a reason why Imperial commanders do like to serve near the front line inside of a Bane Blade, because really this is the best protection you could possibly hope for. Not hiding in a bunker, not even hiding in your spaceship necessarily, but inside of a Bane Blade with all the ceramite you could possibly want. Of course, as I previously mentioned, because of how hard these things are to produce and how rare they are on the battlefield, it's a lucky commander who gets to nestle themselves inside one of these things. And it is a testament to the engineering of mankind that these really are the premier tanks of the Astra Militarum. If you're looking for something higher caliber, there's really only one jump up, and that's Imperial Knights and Titans. Usually, a Bane Blade can rout entire columns of infantry or light tanks single-handedly. Even heretic Astartes have to think very carefully about charging headlong towards a Bane Blade. Because whilst they can dodge a couple of the gunners, there's enough guns pointing out of this thing to make absolutely sure that the Astartes have to work really hard to get close enough to even hope to get inside this thing. I hope you've enjoyed this little video into the super heavy tanks of the Astra Militarum. We will continue the super heavy theme in the next video, as there is more than one variant of Bane Blade. Thank you all very much for listening. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Check us out on Patreon and Facebook. And until next time, take care everyone.